let's pivot and talk some Green Bay Packers. Joining us now, Aaron Nagler of Cheeseheadtv. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, bud? Long time no speak.
By the way, Aaron, Sully, Aaron.
Good to meet you.
What's up, Sully? How are you, man?
Good.
Long time no talk. Before we get to the Packers, I just really quickly, I'm curious what you think about, because you and I have been doing this a long time.
Yes, sir.
Jeff Saturday.
I love it. I mean, the NFL has some NBA vibe to it this year. It's just
really
no one cares anymore. It's like all the precaution is out the window. I think it's not surprising that Irsay is the guy doing this. Like, who is going to go full Steinbrenner? Let's go. Like, I love it. Hey, I'm thinking from a Packers angle, this is like Donald Driver being named the interim head coach. Let's go. I'm all in.
No, Greg Jennings, because he's actually.
Can you imagine? Yes. Greg Jennings as the head coach for Aaron
Greg
Rodgers.
Jennings on Fox Sports 1 and like toss him on as the head coach.
Lord.
I'm trying to. I mean, I remember seeing Irsay. I mean, even like in 2011, 2012, like when we were covering the freaking lockout and like the owners' meetings back then. Like Irsay would like get up and do the. He'd like hold court in front of reporters and like ramble on for like,
as much as he could. He actually enjoyed it. You can tell.
Yeah. Oh, he loved it. So and we're 10. It's 10 years later. He's, I mean, obviously older and. With age, oftentimes can come rash decision making. It feels like we're getting some of that. I don't know.
I mean, between his like basically calling out Dan Snyder and putting that wheel in motion, and now firing his coach and putting in his long time Ring of Honor member. I mean, he's done. He's done pretending. He's going to do what he wants to do. And you know what? Godspeed, man. I love it.
I need to go and look and see just how many Colts. Like former Colts players are on the staff,
right?
They got Reggie Wayne.
I know Reggie Wayne's there, but I heard you guys talking about Peyton Manning. Could you imagine if they recreated the sideline spat, the yelling session where Peyton's like, oh, "Just run the play, block!" Like,
God damn it, Donald!
Jeff's like, "We gotta run the ball!" Like, let's go. I'm all in.
But it's the other way around now. Saturdays.
I know, right?
Right. Exactly. All right, let's talk Green Bay Packers.
Oh, do we have to? Really?
Yes.
You guys only call me when they're bad. It's never when they're doing well. It's always when there's trouble.
What's going on here, man?
I know, right?
They lost to the Lions.
They most certainly did. I watched every second of it, and then I watched it again this morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's like I do local radio around, and like Adam Gold always says that he's like. We gotta talk Panthers first. I'm like, but do we have
really?
To talk Panthers? Because I didn't watch that Panthers game.
We can just wait till the draft to talk Panthers, right? I mean,
exactly right.
And at this point, pretty much with the Packers as well. I mean,
should the Packers shut down Aaron Rodgers?
No, they shouldn't. I have zero doubt that the calls for Jordan Love will grow over the second half of the season as it becomes closer and closer to the team being mathematically eliminated. Although I would say their season's on life support as it is. But, they paid him $50 million as long as he's relatively healthy, and he has been dealing with that thumb injury kind of off and on for weeks now. There's no way. There's no way he sits down. So unless Aaron pulls himself, which I can't ever imagine that ever even approaching a bastion of reality, it's going to be what we've seen really for these last 3-4 weeks. And it's been hard to watch, and it's getting harder to watch. And what's mystifying is how they so easily have a team and a way of working that is available to them, in the sense of they finally found the combination up front along the offensive line when they moved the pieces around 3 weeks ago. They finally got everybody healthy up front. They've shown repeatedly that Aaron Jones is the one guy on this offense who can be productive no matter where you give him the ball, no matter how you deliver the football. He is or should be the engine that makes everything else go, but they steadfastly refuse to go that route. And I don't know if it's Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if it's LaFleur and Rodgers saying, oh, no, we're going to show everybody. But they're running an offense that they've basically been running a type form of for the last 3 years without the personnel to run it. Like how they could possibly look at the guys available to them and go, yep, we're going to spread it out. We're going to go 5 wide. We're just going to hope guys win off the line of scrimmage. Because that's been a majority of the offense that we've seen for like a month in Green Bay. And it absolutely blows my mind.
And you were saying earlier, you've been watching this game twice. Obviously, you watched it this morning. How much, if any, is the right thumb injury impacting Rodgers? Is that part of this equation, or is it just simply lack of trust in the offense, lack of trust in the weapons?
I think it's everything. And that's, always the problem in football is that there are always kind of multiple layers and compounding factors. And I don't for a moment discount the thumb, right? I think that's part of it. But as you guys know, you've been doing this long enough. Once you go out there between the white lines, you are judged accordingly, especially if you're Aaron Rodgers and you're a 4-time MVP, back-to-back MVP the last 2 seasons. You start like missing throws that you usually make in your sleep. Well, maybe you shouldn't be out there until you are healthy enough to make those throws, because right now you're hurting the team. I mean, that team yesterday moved the ball between the 20s and then completely absolutely fell apart 3 times in the red zone because of their quarterback. I mean, that's just losing football.
And you tell me real quickly, just because the play that I keep thinking about is the underthrow, the interception in the end zone when they were throwing it to Bakhtiari.
Right.
Was that a tip pass, or was that just he just didn't have it?
He
didn't have enough on it.
And the thing is if he gets enough on it, Bakhtiari's open.
Yeah.
I mean, credit to Hutchinson, he makes a great play on the ball, but it's a terrible ball. There's zero reason for I don't understand why they're calling that play. Like, I get it.
Sure.
If you're on a roll, you've won a few games, you're moving the ball on offense, you're feeling good about it, but you're in a desperate, gotta save your season situation on the goal line, and you're running the tackle eligible throwback to your best friend. Yeah. I just don't get that play call at all. And then Aaron Rodgers making it 10 times worse by throwing up just a absolute wounded duck of a ball.
Is it? I mean, do you think? Like, is this a? Like, why is this a wide receiver thing? Is it an offensive line thing? Like, why this went from an absolutely dominant offense 2 straight years, and then they came in and said this all season, they're like, we're going to be more defense based and more run heavy.
Well, there's zero doubt that was kind of the thinking, right? At least now, here's where it gets tricky, because it certainly feels like from the outside looking in that was the plan, right? Now, I don't think you'll ever get anyone on record, at least not anytime soon, saying, yes, we had hoped we would be a lot better on defense while our offense figured it out, right?
I mean, they definitely did.
Because that certainly would appear to be the plan, sitting on the outside, right? But now the defense clearly has not been as good as they would hope to be. But I think the defense has played well in spurts, kind of like they did last year. But, man, the offense has just not been able to figure it out. And to me, it really looks, and again, it's hard to say with any certainty, but it really looks like there's a pretty serious disconnect between the personnel group and the coaching staff, because the personnel group handed them one kind of team, especially on offense. It was, okay, your 2 running backs are your most dynamic weapons. They are clearly your best players on the offensive side of the ball. But again, for whatever reason, Matt and Aaron, and it is never one or the other. I see this a lot kind of outside and in the press and what have you. People always saying, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers, or, oh, LaFleur's in over his head, or whatever kind of narrative tries to get spun here. It is both of them. It is always both of them. And for whatever reason, the 2 of them seem insistent upon running a version of their offense that is completely ill-suited for the people they have on hand.
So in other words, you feel like the front office, and this is also interesting too, where you come in like, it's a perfect contrast of Jim Irsay and then like right. No owner. I mean,
Yep.
Obviously Mark
Murphy's not leaning on anybody in any way, shape, or form, especially when he just signed them to contract extensions. That's
he's not. Okay, he's not like he's not.
Yeah, he's not gonna. He's clearly come off. You've come off what 3 years in a row, 13-win seasons. Mark Murphy signs Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst to long-term contract extensions and basically steps away.
Sure.
And I'm not ripping on the guy. Like, that makes sense, right?
Oh, that's what you should do.
He's not Jim Irsay. He's not going to meddle.
Yeah. Jim Irsay's handling it poorly by doing the way he's doing
it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, unless Irsay wants to tank, which he's done before. So,
I mean, he did it. By the way,
that's how he got luck.
Frank Reich was on that 2011 team roster as a coaching staff, which is amazing. Right. Yeah. I mean, Irsay definitely leaned in on that back in 2011 was like, we need to get like this is the year you tank, and
we're gonna drop like a stone, and they did.
Maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he's like, hey Jeff, I need you to come in and take one for the shoe.
Maybe it's a more overt Miami situation without the friction and the tension, right?
Well, I mean, that's sort of one of the two. Should the Packers at 3-6 be considering not tanking, but like, okay,
looking to the future,
put Aaron on ice, put Jordan Love in for 4 weeks, showcase him as a possible trade candidate. I don't know that Jordan Love comes in and looks great in this offense either, though.
Never gonna happen. We all know this. Like that's fantasy land. Although I think there are certainly people in the NFL who would not be wouldn't think that was a crazy idea, right? But that's never going to happen in Green Bay. No chance.
Well, and it's like it'd be worse than he would need to like have minor surgery,
something
and like disappear for a little bit and come back in a thumb cast
for an extended period of time. Exactly. I said it this morning. There's just no conceivable way that Aaron Rodgers sits in any way, shape, or form while he's relatively healthy, even with a banged up thumb. I mean, hell, we've got evidence, back in the day of Brett Favre back in 2003 when he broke his thumb and they leaned into Ahman Green, and Ahman Green had literally a record-setting season on the ground, and they won a bunch of games. And I honestly thought, especially when Aaron hurt his thumb, that's where they were headed. Yeah. You've got two great running backs. Button it up, run the ball. No, it won't always be pretty. Yes, your stats will suck, but at least you give yourself a chance to win some football games. Because right now, the offense is not doing anything to help them win football games at all.
I don't want it to be like they held the Lions to 15 points. Like that's, but
that's complimentary football, right? That's a team that scores over 30 points every single game they're at home, and the Packers defense holds them to 15.
If you hold a chance, by the way, you should win the game.
Stop them on 4th down, 4th and 3 at the end of the game to give your offense a chance to go win the game, and you can't do it. I mean, again, I don't think the defense has been lights out, but they've more than held up their end of the bargain when you're talking about complimentary football.
And when we talk about, obviously them playing a version of their offense that doesn't necessarily suit what they have on the roster, do you think that the injury now to Romeo Doubs, does that, and I guess the state of affairs of where you are, where that could dictate your offense, but does that maybe force their hand into a little bit more of a run-heavy system? Because at this point, you really have Allen Lazard and Christian Watson. I mean, you're in the same place you were. I just wonder if that continues to push you in that direction to run the football.
I mean, the problem is like Aaron Jones is hurt too, right? I mean,
but the report this morning is that he's going to be okay and should actually be available on Sunday against the Cowboys, which is great for the Packers, so they can ignore him some more. No, I'm kidding. But to that point, you would think that makes sense, right? What you're saying, like, okay, we're dropping like flies at wide receiver. Let's button it up. Let's run the ball. Be a little more basic. But I guarantee you, they will sign Juwan Winfrey from their practice squad and carry on as they have been for the first half of the season. I just don't understand, but I don't think I see if Aaron and Matt haven't seen the light, come to Jesus, whatever you want to call it, at this point, I don't know what's going to do it.
Why are they going to change what they're doing?
It felt like they unlocked something in that game against Buffalo.
I totally agree. But then it was funny because after that game, you saw how successful they were with some of the more power stuff. They ran counter. They got between the tackles. And yes, the Bills were playing a lot of too high, but all season long, too high had been a bit of their kryptonite, and they refused to run against it for whatever reason.
Sure.
But even after that game, and then Monday and Wednesday, LaFleur's availabilities, both Aaron and Matt were like, well, yes, we did some good things on the ground, but you got to throw it downfield to win in this league. I'll tell you what, you got to get first downs to win in this league. You got to move the ball and score points to win in this league. And you keep throwing it up for Jesus and getting picked off in the red zone, you're not going to win any games that way.
I mean, if you're like, I reference this all the time, but I always come back to it. Like, we did we streamed with Jordy Nelson like 2 years ago, like during the pandemic, like a watch party thing. And we asked about the wide receiver stuff. He's like, Aaron wants wide receivers who understand how to operate on that secondary route break when he spins out of the pocket. Yep. And he wants them, on the same page as he is. We saw maybe one example with Toure on that deep pass of how that actually works.
Yep.
But other than that, like these guys haven't been able to figure that out for whatever reason
at all.
And so, and they reportedly tried to go trade for like 4 picks for Darren Waller and Chase Claypool, which speaks to the desperation that you got going on there.
Yep.
I don't just tighten everything up, pound the ball, and try and steal some games.
They have to. And that's the only way forward, in my estimation. Now, again, these guys have forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. I understand that. But, man, what's the definition of insanity? Because that's living in Green Bay right now.
Yep.
Over and over and over again, same type of results when you've got at least an alternative sitting right behind you. I mean, it just feels so weird that they refuse to acknowledge that Aaron Jones is a superstar, or at least he could be if they utilized him.
He could easily be offensive player of the year in the NFL if
they utilized him. Yeah, 100%.
And totally. Like I sort of always thought, I was like, all right, they're going to move. Like I thought the plan was AJ Dillon in the backfield most of the time. Aaron Jones split him out.
Doing
run some two running back stuff and have him motion out and just.
Well, we saw some more of that. We saw a lot of pony in the game in Detroit, but for whatever reason, they didn't really get the ball to Aaron Jones off any of that.
Yeah, well, it's like it's even like the stuff that they do could be. Yeah, they're not. Like, it's not like this is some young quarterback who can't get to the correct progression. I mean, this is a two-time MVP.
I tell you what, though, that's what's scary. There's two things coming off that tape from yesterday's game. You mentioned the second reaction stuff that Jordy was talking about, right?
Yep.
So many plays in that game, if you look at the all-22, where guys get to the top of their route, like there's like comebacks and things like that, where guys go and they just stop. And Aaron's like dancing around in the pocket and trying to break free. And then everyone's like, oh, I got to keep going. Like that pops up again and again. But
they don't know what they're doing when it comes to,
like if things get out of structure, it's over. And then, but the other problem is that in the structure, there are a handful of plays where Rodgers has a dude screaming wide open. I mean, wide open, looking right at him. And for whatever reason, doesn't like it, pulls it down, starts looking at the rush, and it has to either throw it away or try to escape the pocket. I've gotten to the point now where it really feels like he's got the yips. Like there's so many levels of dysfunction, both from the offensive line has been kind of a mess up until about 2 weeks ago, to the receiver stuff that we're talking about, to just him trusting what he's seeing. They feel absolutely broken on offense.
Right. That's what I was going to ask. Does it almost feel like he thinks, okay, too good to be true if he's that wide open? And
1,000%. Especially in a game where he's thrown a couple picks, and so he's probably a little gun shy. Like, I understand that that's going to happen, but man, if it hadn't, I'd be less concerned if we hadn't seen evidence of that throughout the entirety of the season, which we certainly have.
Is it possible too that like the lack of trust in his wide receivers has sort of created a lack of confidence or a lack of trust in himself to like pull the trigger, where he's like
a little bit. I do not doubt for a moment, and that's kind of always been Aaron's way. You talk to anybody who's played with him.
Like if you got a bump,
exactly, and you don't trust what you're going to do with the football, and then you don't trust what that guy's going to do off of his break. Like, well, yeah, that's probably going to breed some inconsistency. There's no doubt there. But the bad habits are all back, as far as falling off the back foot, throwing sidearm. I mean, that first interception literally goes off dude's helmet because Aaron doesn't step into the throw, doesn't make a correct, like not even close. Like he's just like that sidearm, like shortstop throw into a dude's head. This is a 4-time MVP.
It's crazy.
What are we doing?
It's also like some of that stuff manifests itself in terms of, you're overcompensating sometimes for injury. You're overcompensating sometimes for a failure of the offense to function in a proper way.
You're trying to do it all yourself.
Yep. Trying to make it all. Exactly. You're looking around you and you're like, oh my God, I
have to make it happen. And this is to me, that's the crux of the issue. Like, no, the other Aaron is the one you guys should be trusting and counting on to make it happen.
Right.
And I don't know if Aaron Rodgers will allow them to do that. I mean, only Matt and Aaron can answer that question. But to me, it seems so simple. And it's going to be, again, it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be not very sexy. Your numbers are going to suffer. But I don't understand what other alternative you have if you want to at least try to win some games.
Well, I am curious what you think. If you went back in time, like let's say a year and a half, and you said, hey, younger Aaron.
No boy.
No. Would you like Mike McCarthy is going to come to Green Bay in 2022 as a 4.5-point road favorite?
God, Lord. I tell you what, though, this is true. I got the tweets to prove it. Always was appreciative of McCarthy's time in Green Bay. Obviously, things got ran their course, especially between him and Aaron. Like, I completely understand things got stale towards the end. But I remember that first year in Dallas when they were completely beat up down there, and people were like, oh, you see, the Packers were right. Like, Mike's a terrible coach. Like, that's what you got from a lot of fans who were, just glad to see him out the door or whatever. And I said at the time, like, just let him at least operate with an offensive line and a quarterback for a full season and see what this team can do. And I think, Mike's put it together pretty damn well this year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to like run roughshod over the NFC or anything, but they're playing pretty good football on both sides of the ball. And I love that Mike gets to come back to Lambeau and say, yeah, I'm doing all right without you guys.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. And like, now it's like, it's do or die time for Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, it is 100% do or die time for Green Bay. There is zero doubt about that. And to have to do that against Mike McCarthy
is
The football gods deliver sometimes, man.
This league. Like
I know, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more juicy narrative. Funnily enough, we have a conference call with McCarthy with the Green Bay media in about an hour. So I'm
delightful.
I can't wait for that.
He might be a little saucy in that thing.
I cannot wait for it. Can't wait.
All right. Well, we'll let you go, Aaron. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Cheesehead.tv Co-Founder.
Hey, when the Packers go on a winning streak, hit me up next time.
Bring it
right?
back. Hey, if you get an RELAX moment, we'll bring it back. All right.